Kimberly Crail is a wise woman, herbalist, and educator who came from Wall Street to the weeds. Casey's mission is to teach folks how to heal themselves using whole plants and foods as medicine. You can heal yourself with simple and inexpensive methods, foods, and herbs. And now, here's the host of Weeds of Wisdom, Kimberly Crail.
Hi, welcome to this week's edition of Weeds of Wisdom. My name is Casey, the Wise Woman, and it is Tuesday, June the 10th, and I welcome you to the show. Tonight, I'm very excited that my guest is going to be Margie K. of the UnX, or Unexplained Network, and Margie is one of the most accomplished remote viewers in the world. She has helped solve over 70 missing person homicide and theft cases for law enforcement, private investigators, and individuals. And so Kay also assists paranormal and UFO investigators and worldwide using her unique abilities. She does private readings for individuals, as well as has noticed some strange new trends concerning 5D. And you can get more information about Margie's work at Margie, MargieKay.com. So as we do every week, I'm just going to do a quick song. I know some people love it and some people don't, but I encourage everyone to sing and really move into that other side of your being. So here we go. Sacred Corn Mother, come to me. Make my way sacred, fill me with beauty. Sacred Corn Mother, come to me. Make my way sacred, fill me with beauty. Fill me with beauty. Fill me with beauty. Fill me with beauty, that I may bring others beauty. So welcome, Margie. Great to have you on Weeds of Wisdom. Thank you so much. You're muted. Unmute yourself, darling.
Yes, the old automatic unmute doesn't work. So, well, thank you for having me.
So I was really very impressed. I saw an interview that you had done with my friend Laura Eisenhower the other day, and really was quite blown away. My friend Cheryl Arbogast sent me the interview, and really, I mean, you're just such an amazing, powerful being, and I want to just explore that aspect of you. Besides being an amazing author and running the UnX network, you're also a great remote viewer. Wow, who knew? And by the way, one of my favorite TV shows of all time was a show called Medium. I'm not sure if you ever watched that show. It was Patricia Arquette, I think, was the main character, and that's actually based on a true story. And so tell us more about this remote viewing work that you do.
Well, it really started as when I was a child. I began to see things that other people didn't, and we knew before I was 3 years old that something different was going on with me, just compared to the rest of the members of my family. And but they did not discourage me, so that was a plus for me. A lot of people have problems when they're children and their parents kind of shut them down and they create blocks, and they're not using their third eye, not using their psychic center because of that. But I did not have that problem, and so I had connections. I saw my first ghost when I was about 10 years old. A head appeared at the foot of my bed, and kind of was shocking who had died several years earlier, and
Oh,
before I was born, actually. And so,
I'm sorry.
I've
Just
been
can
in
you repeat
contact.
that? You froze up a little bit. It was your grandfather?
Oh, yeah, it turned out to be my father's father, my paternal grandfather, who I've never met because he died before I was born. And
Wow.
so that kind of started me off on, paranormal and being open to things. But and I used my gifts. I was doing psychic readings by the time I was 18 years old.
Huh.
But when I was 29, well, actually, right at 30, right at the age of 30, which is when a lot of things happen for people, especially
Mhm.
on their birthdays, I've found. But
Hmm.
30 is a big year. Valiant Thor appeared to me, and I did
Wow.
not know who he was. He just appeared on the wall. I was at my massage therapist, and he appeared on the wall and actually gave me X-ray vision. I was looking at my massage therapist, and he was just a skeleton standing there. And,
Whoa. Like
yeah.
the old X-ray glasses you used to get in the back of the comic books.
Oh, right, right. So
Wow.
he called. Thor said, "Now you have X-ray vision, and we're going to be working together, and I'll contact you later." And he was gone, and I had no idea who the man was. No idea what just happened. The massage therapist went back to normal, but then when I went back home and I started doing readings again, I noticed a big change in my readings. Now it was as if I was actually inside a person's body looking at their organs and their blood, and I could look on a microscopic level, better than a CAT scan. I call it
Hmm.
a P scan, a psychic scan.
So help us that don't do this work. Now it's instead of looking at something, you were actually inside the
Inside.
person. Is that sort of how it changed for you?
Well, I was actually looking inside people before, but what I would see is like these blobs of energy that would tell
Mhm.
me, yeah, there's this red blob here and there's an infection in this place. Or
Mhm.
there's a black blob and that's probably cancer.
Mhm.
Or white, an organ is missing. So I would see those things and I would maybe get a message, from their guides, that get a couple of words that would tell me something. But after that encounter with Thor, he really opened up my psychic center, and so it was completely different. And also looking at machinery and vehicles and finding
Hmm.
problems in things, like I do a dowsing thing where I follow a line coming out of my solar plexus to find things, like
Okay.
lost keys or something like that, and I'll follow it. And that's also what I use when I'm looking for missing people.
Hmm.
I will allow, and Thor actually, I was doing a case one time looking for a girl, and Thor's voice said, "Look down." So I look down and I see this line coming out of my solar plexus. And so that I followed that line with my etheric body, and then I found this girl, and that was the first case I did. And so ever since then, I've used the same method to find missing persons, or go to the scene of a homicide and tell what happened. I'm usually working with law enforcement or private investigator. Sometimes I do work with individuals if they're related to the person. They have to be related to the person,
Hmm.
or it does no good. What kind of helps is hearing their voice, because I'm very, very in tune with vibration. And
Mhm.
if I hear a voice of someone, who's missing, if I hear the voice of a relative, that will help me tune into that missing person.
Mm.
However, it's not ideal to work with the people, the family, because there's a lot of emotion involved, and I have
Right.
to navigate around that part of it. So I much prefer working directly with law enforcement.
Right. The objective sort of third parties that don't really have
Right.
emotional, interference in the whole exercise. That is so interesting. So so you follow this. It's like a thread. I'm fascinated by that because it reminds me of in this book, The Sorcerer's Crossing. I'm trying to remember the woman's name. She was a Carlos. It was like a Carlos Castaneda type thing. She
Hmm.
talks about how they part of the way that they regain their energy is that they recapitulate, and that every person that you interact with leaves a I think she described it as
Yeah.
a thread of light, and essentially by pulling these threads of energy back to yourself, they were able to do to manipulate all kinds of things about quote unquote reality. So I don't know if it's, but I'm fascinated that it always seems like there's light involved and there are threads. So I'm fascinated by that. Don't mean to interrupt, so carry on.
Yeah. Well, do you remember the book by Shirley MacLaine? Um,
Oh yeah.
and she
Ah,
talked about the silver cord, and she would astrally leave her body, and then she would see the silver cord connection to her physical body.
oh, I'd
Uh,
forgotten about that, but yeah, now that you
yeah,
mention it, I remember. Yes.
yeah, it's very, very similar to that, except that in order to leave your body astrally, the ideal situation is being asleep, and then you spin out of your body. And I do
Mm,
that too. I've done that since I was like 15, but I much prefer using my etheric body because it's instantaneous, and
mm,
I don't have to be asleep to do it. I don't have to even be in a deep trance state anymore, just a very light trance state, because I've had so much practice doing this that,
right.
it's just like a few seconds that it starts working.
Right. Right. So interesting. So explain for some of us who may not be aware, the different bodies that we have. I know we have etheric bodies, and I think there's an auric body, and there's a 3D body, and so maybe educate us a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, we all have 7 bodies, with the physical body being the most dense. And then there are multiple bodies. There are 6 bodies after that that are less and less dense as they go along. So you
Mhm.
have an astral body that's a little more dense, and then etheric body that's a little lighter, and a little lighter, a mental body, emotional body, et cetera, et cetera. And the thing that I've noticed when I'm doing readings for people, the first thing I do is look at their energy field around them. And the
Mm.
energy field will tell me a lot about what's going on with that person, and also all of their chakras, because the chakras are directly related to each layer of the 7 bodies, which is
I was
something
just
that I
thinking that.
I never learned from books. It
Mhm.
it just shows up. That's what I see. And so I can tell if a person is doing astral travel, because their astral body will be lit up. It'll be
Huh.
bright, very bright yellow. And so I'll say, "Yeah, you're doing astral travel at night." And like, "How do you know?" Well, because it's lit up. You're using it,
Huh.
you know?
Huh.
And if they're using their mental body, if they're very scientifically oriented and they're into mathematics or figures and things like that, their mental body will be lit up.
Mm.
Um, and so everybody is a little unbalanced in a lot of ways, because they'll be focusing on 1 or 2 things, and that's what's showing up at that time.
Mm.
Rarely, only twice. I've done like 4,000 readings for people.
Wow. You're like Edgar
Only
Casey.
twice, yeah, only twice have I seen a full color rainbow of a person. Okay, only
Interesting.
twice. So then, when I see that, I know they are extremely advanced
Right.
and very, very high frequency, high level of understanding, and yeah, I mean, it's just they're just glowing, okay, with
That's
this.
nice.
And they've also balanced their chakras, and their
Right.
chakras look perfect, and no one's chakras ever look perfect. There's always
Right.
some issue there.
Mhm.
But one of the things that I've seen lately that you might find interesting, only in the last 5 weeks, has this been happening? I'm doing a reading for someone and I look inside their body and their small intestine is white. Now that used to mean the organ was missing, but I know it's not missing. And then one of my guides said, it's the person changing into fifth dimension, 5D human, because our planet is moving into fifth dimension, as you know. Okay, we're all going through changes because of that, but the people are too, and people with a very high vibration are showing that their small intestine has moved into 5D. And in a couple of instances, I've seen the pancreas and the lower intestine. So there seems to be an order to this, where I've seen about 12 people that have this going on, and they always turn out to be healers. You know, they're high vibration people, in other words.
That is so fascinating. Well, you know, my understanding is fairly limited, but I have, you know, studied sort of our, you know, the Gaian history, and my understanding is we weren't very dense. We were in something close, akin to 5D when we first got here during the Lemurian age. So we're not completely non-physical, but we're a lot less dense. Is that consistent with your understanding as well? And is that kind of where we're going? What do you think?
Yes,
5D is?
Definitely going. Yeah, 5D means a much less dense body. And
yay! As a fat woman, I'm thrilled with that idea.
Well, it has more to do with your level of vibration.
I know. I'm just playing with you.
Yeah. And I think that what I used to think that we were actually going to split from 3D people and we weren't going to be seeing each other anymore. But now I don't think that's correct. I think what's happening is we're still going to be in the same area and see each other, but the 5D people may actually appear much different, much lighter, maybe even partially transparent. Okay, because they're not in the heavy, dense physical, and that dense physical is not there anymore. So now they have 6 bodies. Okay.
Oh, okay, right.
That's what I think is happening. You know, as we're moving up.
Well, it
so
will
to
be
speak.
very interesting to see what happens. Right, moving up, moving back, moving into position.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating. Well, and you know, I'm so interested in that because it has to do for me with the idea of contrast. You know, because I think when you're completely in the non-physical, it's very difficult to have real experiences that are, you know, teaching experiences, because you don't run into things, right? That, you know, there's no sort of resistance, you know, this idea that, you know, that when you encounter something that, you know, it's the friction that is the creation, the creative force, the expansive force. So I'm really very curious about how all that works, but yeah, I've always looked forward to being less dense.
Me too. Although I haven't had anyone read me to see.
Oh, that would be a good. Well, you probably have a tough time finding people that can read you, I'm guessing.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To somebody that's you know, you need one of those 2 rainbow people that you found.
Well, actually, 1 full rainbow would be good enough.
1 full rainbow. Yeah.
That would do it. Yeah. But the other thing is, in general, since 2021, we got a big energy boost on the planet. And that was, I think, really the beginning of the actual shift to 5D was in 2021. And people who were already on the path, so to speak, noticed that change. And so it's meant a lot of things for people. First of all, what they eat. A lot of times the lower density foods like beef and pork are no longer compatible with the body. They needed to move into mostly vegetables, vegetarian
Mhm.
diet, some fish is usually what I see, and some fruits, but oddly, no grapefruit. I mean, in 99% of the cases, their guides are telling me no
No
grapefruit.
grapefruit? Oh
And
my gosh.
I don't know
It
what it is.
interferes with your medication. I know my mom loved grapefruit, and she had to start taking one of her medications. They put you on so
Yeah.
many. I remember she had to start taking it at night because they told her otherwise she was going to have to give up her grapefruit. She's like, "I'm not giving up my grapefruit." So it's fascinating.
Wow. Well, it wasn't a problem for me because I've never liked it. But that, and then also too much citrus is not good.
Well, citrus is very cooling from a herbal medicine standpoint. Any citrus is very cooling to the body. So
Okay.
my guess is that might extinguish somewhat it might, reduce that vibration. So that could be why citrus might interfere. But I love steak,
Uh-huh.
so I don't know what I'm going to do about that. Maybe I'm doomed to be dense.
I
We'll
don't think
see.
so. I'll have to do a
Yeah, we'll
reading
see.
for you off air.
Yeah, yeah, that would be fun. I would love that.
Sure.
Um, I was because and I've had my mother actually was born with a caul over her face,
Ah,
in the old days they said that meant she was psychic. That there's a layer of skin that completely covers the baby's face
yeah.
when she's born, and the funny thing was she was the one that we used to watch Ancient Aliens together when I would have to go to the library and get the VHS tapes, right? That was how long ago we were
Oh,
watching
wow.
it.
Yeah.
And when it first came out and it wasn't really on TV, right? And then she's the one that turned me on to chemtrails. Uh, and when I thought she was a Looney Tune. I mean, my mom really had a lot going on in terms of her ability to discern or to see things that other people couldn't see. And of course, she was quite discouraged around it, unlike you as a child. Had she been encouraged more, who knows what she could have accomplished. So tell me about your family that was so cool with you being this remote viewer.
Well, my family was a little strange. My
Okay.
mother was very secretive. She was very intelligent. Uh, but we think that there was some things going on with her. Um, and that she was possibly in the FBI. And that's a long story, but she could
Mhm.
keep a secret. Let's put it like that. Okay. And there were just these connections and connections with military coming after me at a young age to recruit me at age 17. And when I had no interest in it, but she was pushing me to
Hmm.
do it. And so it was all very strange. And this military experience was odd too. But she ended up being the credit manager for Tension Envelope, which was like 3 blocks from the federal building where the FBI building was in Kansas City. And we know there are a lot of underground tunnels in
Yeah.
Kansas City in that area that were
Yeah.
put there years and years ago by the CIA and the mafia. And
Mhm.
KC was headquarters for quite some time, and they would have their meetings there, and they
Right.
probably still do. I don't know. Um, but my
Wow.
dad, my dad was a super genius. Um, Quit school. He took one semester of junior college and then quit because the professors were not. He knew more than the professors. But it ended up, he spoke 7 languages. He His best friends were PhDs and senators and things like that. He always had a tendency of being in the wrong place at the wrong time when like secret meetings between FBI and or CIA and the mafia were happening and overhearing things about the temple in Independence being built way before it was built, that they were trying to make an
Uh-oh.
antenna so that they could communicate with extraterrestrials. Um, yeah, and then later in life, my parents got divorced when I was 17, and we kind of split away, from my dad. We didn't have much contact with him. He moved out of state, Later, I connected with him, and he was a wizard. They had long hair, long beard,
Wow.
and he had turned into a wizard, and his name was the Wiz.
Oh
And
my
so
gosh.
he had followed a
I
metaphysical path just like I did, with us being completely apart from each other.
Wow. Wow, that's fascinating. Well, we're going to have to take a short break now, but when we come back, I can't wait to hear more about the wizard of
Okay.
your family and the rest of the story. Thanks. We'll be
Don't
right
miss the supernatural event of 2025, the biggest, best, and original ghost conference in America returns June the 26th through the 29th in Alton, Illinois. The Haunted America Conference returns to one of the most haunted small towns in all of America for our 28th annual event. Join us for new and returning speakers on ghosts, hauntings, the paranormal, and the unexplained. Plus, how-to workshops, question and answer sessions, special events, haunted tours, and much more. The Haunted America Conference is always the most fun you'll have at a paranormal event. We look forward to seeing you in June 2025. You won't be sorry that you've come to help us celebrate 28 years. Visit ghostconference.net to register today. That's ghostconference.net. The new book, How to Research a Haunted House by paranormal investigator Margie K. and professional researcher Violet Wisdom, is now available from Unex Media. This one-of-a-kind book explains how to do research on a house with uncommon methods and resources used by historic home researchers, and how to determine who may be doing the haunting and why. How to Research a Haunted House can be used by homeowners, renters, investors, and it should be in the library of all professional paranormal investigators. Get this unique book at unexmedia.com or amazon.com. That's unexmedia.com or amazon.com.
Hi, welcome back to Weeds of Wisdom. I was just thinking that I wish I had had that book, How to Research a Haunted House, because I lived in an 1894 Queen Anne Victorian in Long Island, New York, and there were lots of things knocking around there. And the funny thing, here's a funny story. So my husband and I are moved into the house, and one of the bedrooms that's just above the living room, we've just got a bunch of boxes in there and stuff. And we have two dogs, but we're in the living room, and the dogs and the cats, everybody's with us. But it sounds like somebody's throwing furniture around in that room. It's like banging around, banging around, banging around. And this happens 2 or 3 different times. And so finally, once I got the room all fixed up, it stopped. So whoever it was up there was unhappy that her room was not, that it was a storage area, I guess. I don't know,
Right.
but fascinating. It's really fascinating.
They will do that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Spirits who are attached to houses, and this happens a lot, they get very attached to their things in their house because that's where they feel the most comfortable. And they want everything to be as it was. The minute you start changing things, doing remodeling, piling a bunch of boxes in somewhere, they're gonna act up. So
well, it was funny because a few years after that, we got divorced, and I was remodeling the house, and when they pulled the fireplace mantle off, these old photographs fell out. It was a tintype from like the late 1800s,
Ooh.
and a photograph of a man and a bowler and two women, but the two women in the tintype, it made the hair on my back of my neck stand up, because she had been in one of my dreams years before that. And
Oh.
yeah, so like I said, I wish I had known more about how to research a haunted house to really figure out who that might have been. But it's so fascinating because I think people have been dumbed down to think that we're just this bag of blood and bones, and everything is, if you can't see it, smell it, taste it, or touch it, it doesn't exist. And I don't think anything can be further from the truth. I think really we're eternal beings. We are spiritual,
Mm-hmm.
and we're having a physical experience. So I appreciate that, you've had the courage to really step into this space. And when I say courage, I'm curious about your views in terms of, the light and the dark, and the good and the evil, and there's a lot of discussion about that. And so I'm just curious, when you're doing these assignments, do you ever come across things that are dark, or is there something that you need protection, or some particular rituals that you do to keep yourself in this clear space from being deceived? I'm curious about that.
Oh yeah. I always do a protection before I work on a case, or before I investigate a haunted place, or do anything, even a UFO investigation. I will put protection around myself, which involves, doesn't take long. You get into a meditative, just a relaxed state of mind, pull white light in through your crown chakra, down through your entire body, and then push that out. And I say fingertip length. So as far as your arm can reach to your fingertips, you want to have a bubble of white light around you. It's called a golden egg. There,
Hmm.
you always have that around you, but you want to charge that with white light. And the reason is that the dark side, which is a number of things, but the dark side doesn't like the light, and they will avoid it. So
Hmm.
the thing is that your thoughts do create things. And I know they create things because I have seen other people's creations that are in their field, or in fact, in one case, in my daughter's case, I just saw something. I was driving home one day, and all of a sudden I saw her house, and I saw this ball of golden light about 60 feet above her house. And I called her up, and I said, this is so strange. What is that? She goes, "You've got to be kidding me. I just created that last night." And she put it above her house with a list of things that she wanted, and she sent that up, but she stuck it there. And so I know people can think something and actually create it. It's real.
Yeah.
So you do
Yeah.
that, and you might take clear quartz crystals with you, and you might also take a black stone, it could be obsidian or something like that, on your body to stay grounded. And then the
Hmm.
clear crystal is for protection. Okay,
Hmm.
before you walk into a space. The other thing I do is I will remote view the location first if I'm going on a site investigation. I'll remote view it to see exactly what is there. And
Hmm.
whatever it is, if they know I'm coming. And a lot of times, if it's a negative spirit, they will take off. They'll leave because they know that my power is stronger than theirs. And they will
Uh-huh.
leave before we get there, and that person is so happy because it's gone. That's
Right.
most of the time that will happen. Sometimes I'll run
Rather than
into
have a confrontation with you. I get it.
right. No, they don't. They don't want that. They don't want that
Hmm.
because I do get rid of negative energies, and I've been able to do that for a very long time, since I was about 18. They will
Hmm.
take off. I was actually attacked by a witch when I went to college. My first night in college, I was a freshman. First
Oh
night,
no.
and my roommate and I. This is a cool story. We're headed to the an orientation deal for, the first time
Right.
freshman, and not thinking about anything. This guy walks up to us. Now, the guy was a lot older, probably in his late 20s, early 30s. And what he was doing on the campus, we didn't know. But he walked up and struck up this conversation, just talking about nothing. And I noticed his eyes were changing color: blue, green, red, black. And I'm like, okay, I'm dealing with a witch here. What is he trying to do? And my friend was totally hypnotized and frozen. So then I realized he's trying to put us in a trance state. Didn't work with me, but it did work with her. And so I had to shake her. And then he says, "Would you like to go see The Exorcist with me?"
Oh, for goodness
and that's
sake.
what I knew. That's what I knew what I was dealing with. I'm like, oh, great. So I said, no, shook her out of it. We left. And then after that, he started following me around campus. And so I told some friends about it. I said, this weird guy I swear he's following me. And they didn't believe me. So one of my friends said, okay, I'm going to follow you home. And this was in the evening after I did a band rehearsal. I'm headed to my dorm, and he followed behind me. And the next day he says, oh yeah, that guy appeared and he followed you the whole time. So what happens next? I'm asleep in my room with my roommate. 3:00 in the morning, something wakes me up, and I look, and he's standing at the foot of my bed, fully formed, but slightly transparent. Okay. And then I knew, and I don't know how I know this, but I did know that they were trying to get my power. They're trying to steal my power, and he was with a group. And so I followed this line to the group, and it was a coven in the basement of a house, and they had a pentagram, upside down pentagram, and candles, and the whole thing. And they were trying to steal my power. And at the first, he was trying to get me physically to go with him because he was going to kidnap me. Secondly, they decided to do it while I was asleep. But
wow.
I woke up. The next day, in the news, was that a house had mysteriously burned down in Warrensburg.
He burnt his house down.
And they found a pentagram in the basement. I didn't know it. I did not know what I could do until that moment. And so the bad guys usually don't mess with me anymore.
Nice. I love that story. That is a great story.
I haven't really told that story too often because it's so crazy.
Just burnt that bitch's house down. I love it. That's great. yeah. FAFO. Very, very good. Well, and one of my friends, Kathy O'Brien, talks about how the whole mind control thing works, and so you can actually, and because they are trained in these techniques in terms of how to work with the psyche and how to mesmerize people, right? How to put them into a trance. Yeah. And I think, there are a lot of people today, it seems like a lot of people today are just sort of, and in fact, a survey came out of something like 50% of people have no critical thoughts whatsoever. They don't think about anything deeply. And I just found that so fascinating.
Whoa.
But, yeah, it's like, they're just completely blank. They're just going through their lives, but they don't really have any deep level of, thought or, meditation or anything about anything. I was just shocked.
It's hard to believe.
It is hard to believe. It really, really is. Now, we do have a question from the audience. For you, have you ever had a time when it didn't work, when you couldn't just get connected, or you couldn't get your target in your sights?
I have had a very few times where the person that I was trying to read had blocked themselves so well that I couldn't get through to get all the information. So I wait until here, bad guys, here's the warning. Okay. I wait until the dead of night when they're asleep.
They're sleeping. Okay.
And then their guard is down and I can get in.
Got it.
Yeah, to see their true self.
So generally speaking, you're usually successful in one way or another.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. That's interesting. And what do you think about the frequencies that, like the 5G and the blue light and the, is this really having my understanding is it's calcifying our pineal glands. Is that consistent with what you understand?
Fluoride and these frequencies are calcifying the pineal gland, which of course is responsible for your ability to think straight and to use your third eye. Right. And so big conspiracy with music and everything else, they're using all kinds of frequencies to stop that, 440 hertz and etc. Right. But I see frequencies. So I see not only what people emit, but also what is affecting them. And so the past few years, I've seen frequencies coming from certain directions that are negatively affecting the people. And so I'll look at them in their house and then the direction, and I'll give them the direction and a approximate distance for something that's causing that. And every single time they say, oh, that's a cell tower. That's a 5G tower. There is a tower there. And so the frequency is negatively affecting the person. So here's my cure. Okay. You can't blow the tower up. Okay. Don't do that. You can get some little orgone energy generators. I make them actually, and I'm going to start putting them on my website because people need them. You can keep it on yourself. You can put one next to your computer, to block those frequencies. But you can also drop them near cell towers on the ground. Okay. You just sneak and go drop some or throw them out there or something. And then the other thing a person can do is there's this material that's actually Faraday material that you can purchase, and you can make curtains. You can even cover your entire walls with them. And what I do is I find out what direction this frequency is coming from to attack them. And in the person's bedroom, I tell them, cover your walls with the material, put some curtains up. You could even make a bedspread out of it, and then there's also this clothing line. They just changed their name, so I can't think of the name of it. But if you look up Faraday cage clothing line, whatever, and they make these beanie caps and other clothing.
I've seen them. Yeah.
When you're out and about. And so I looked at it first, of course, to see if it works, and it does work.
I saw a movie, and I can't remember the name of the movie to save my life, but it was one of those predictive programming movies, and they were doing the mind control voice to skull thing. And I just remember the people that were running figured out that if they took it sounds silly, but they took the copper pot scrubbers and put them in their baseball caps to keep that connection from being made.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, usually they'll tell you in the movies what you can do. And I was like, that seems like a really inexpensive way. I wonder, because they're always talking about the tinfoil hats, but I think it's copper that's the real key. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, it's any kind of metal. It doesn't have to be copper, but it can be any type of natural metal. And I can see that would work. Absolutely. They're making Faraday baseball caps too. Or you could even line a baseball cap with this material if you wanted to be sneaky about it. Right. And some of us have been attacked by directed energy weapons. I have been attacked by it. So the thing I suggest for people who are publicly talking about these things like you, to wear a Faraday cage vest all the time under your clothes. And that will block that signal. The other thing that blocks it is the color blue. For some reason, that weapon cannot penetrate blue. And interestingly enough, there are some places in the world where they're painting their roofs blue. So I wonder why. They
that
know
UN
something.
blue or something. Yeah. Yeah.
They know something.
Very interesting. Well, and that makes sense to wear a vest because your heart is electric. You know, your heart is electrical. So it would make sense that you would want to block the heart and maybe the brain from those signals. So that completely makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And it's okay. So we'll look for Faraday fabric. All right, that's very interesting.
I'll put the link
Wow.
on my website. I'll find it and put the link on there.
Okay, that'd be great. Yeah, because I saw them at one of the shows, and I just don't remember what the name of it was, but they had the beanie caps and all that other stuff. So in the time we have left, we have about 10 minutes. So tell people, you know, I guess from your perspective, because you do have a different perspective on what's going on in the world, because you're in this non-physical realm. So where do you see, what do you think is really going on? Do you think it's, do you think that there are white hats? Do you think we're winning? What's your opinion about, you know, the Palantir thing? I know it's a lot to cover, but because I think part of the issues a lot of people have today is discerning fact from propaganda. And so it's very difficult to really tell what's going on today. And so because somebody like yourself, I'm guessing, can probably just cut right through and see what's really going on energetically, maybe you want to share with the audience what your perspective is.
Well, there's a lot going on. There are white hats and black hats and gray hats. And there are people who don't know that they're being manipulated because they're getting signals. And it used to be they had to have implants in people to do it, but now they don't, and they can send a signal out and you think it's your own thought to do something. And I think really in the last 50 years, there have been some assassinations and assassination attempts where those people were mind controlled. You know, that was definitely mind control. I've had at least one incident happen to me where I heard a thought in my head and it wasn't my thought. I knew it wasn't. So there is some bad stuff going on, but the thing is that the white hats are winning and the black hats are doing their last ditch effort right now, really acting up. They're trying everything in the book to try to stop us. They don't want people to use their third eye. They don't want them to be aware. They don't want them to think clearly about things. They don't want them to be able to discern right from wrong even. And you'll notice some of these people who have been arrested lately for doing heinous crimes are laughing while the judge is pronouncing sentence. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I have.
Oh, those people are possessed. They are absolutely possessed. And the whatever is possessing them has taken over because they were in a weakened state. And they're in a weakened state because of all the 5G and you know, just all of these frequencies that don't meld with our frequencies. So we have to stay focused. The white hats, the high vibration people can overcome this, and they can help other people by raising their frequency. So here's the thing. A person with a very high frequency can affect many, many other people just by being around, just by being near them. Okay. And the more powerful you are, the further the distance is of people you affect. And that keeps the dark side away. So people who are light workers, I encourage you to keep it up, keep your strength up, keep recharging yourself, because you're helping other people around you all the time, and it's pushing the dark side away.
Right. No, that's very encouraging, and that's exactly what Kathy O'Brien says. Just be the love that you are, and when you have your vibration managed, they really can't touch you, right? Because they really can't exist in that high frequency. They're very low down on the frequency scale. So rather than, because I think people tend to get into this fear space around it. So what I'm really hoping that we can do is give people an understanding of what it is that they're dealing with, and give them some, some tips for how to manage it. And actually, singing, laughing, any of that immediately dispels and raises your vibration, so that if you are under attack, then that should, but the big point is, I think the universe tends toward perfection. And so, and the light and the dark are always going to be spinning around. So, but the dark is trying to convince everyone, of one thing, right? And to kind of bring it to a halt. But we're always going to keep spinning. And so when you have that appreciation for life and that hopefulness, I think that automatically raises your vibration. Any other tips that you have for people in terms of how to ride out the shift to 5D?
Well, you're absolutely right. Keeping in a high vibration is the key. It's very important not to let your guard down, especially if you get sick. If you've got an illness of some type, it's easy to let your guard down. So just remember to keep some crystals around, and that will remind you to stay focused on keeping your vibration high. And sometimes we have to do some difficult things, like leaving low vibration people who are not going to change. That's a tough one. I had to recommend to a lady today that she do just that. Now, she knew it. She just needed some confirmation that needed to happen, because some people will just get stuck and they don't want to move any further. It's not that they like their life that way, but that's what they feel comfortable with. And so, it would be too big of a change. They're kind of afraid of what will come next. And the thing is, there really isn't anything to be afraid of, because it's all good. You're going to get more skills. You're going to get new things to try. You're going to see more. Just seeing sprites or seeing energy fields around people is so cool. It's there. It's waiting for you.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. There's really nothing to be afraid of, because we are eternal beings. The universe tends toward perfection. So I think one of the key things is, because Kathy also says information control is the key to mind control. And so if you only get your information from the rectangular tube that we're hardwired to have an adrenaline response to, then, you're probably, just getting out in nature and getting away from the man-made stuff and into, the beauty of nature is super important. And then going back to what you said earlier about something about the age of 30, that is also the age when they usually killed the MK Ultras slaves, because the brain would ultimately, at around age 30, that with their alters, they would lose that barrier, and they would start to remember things. And so, you were talking about a lot of kids around 30, or people around 30, kids now I can say 30, were having that, this freaking out experience. And we can see that with a lot of the Disney people, the Britney Spears and those kind of people. So it was interesting that you said it's around age 30 that, seems to make some kind of a difference.
Yeah, and that's kind of the age of awakening, really. People don't really mature until they're that age. And I think that the universe decides, yeah, they're ready now. So they're going to unleash the truth. And sometimes the truth isn't pretty. I mean, I've got a whole nother show to do on my time in the military and secret space program stuff. But
Wow.
yeah, they were using me for remote viewing for sure. But and training and a lot of other things. And those memories are coming back now just like crazy.
Mm.
It takes a
Well,
while. It really takes a while.
well, and there are Bryce Taylor being one great example. She didn't even know that she had been an MK Ultra until she was in her 30s and had a car accident.
Yeah.
The movie The Long Kiss Goodnight is loosely modeled on Bryce Taylor's actual real life experience. And
Mm-hmm.
even her father, who was her handler, also did not have any conscious memory of being her, handler. So they're quite good in terms of what they can do with their machines, but ultimately the strength of the human spirit and the power of love always overcomes. Because I don't really think that man and his little gadgets are actually smarter than the force that creates the worlds. And just in my opinion, what do you think?
That's it. That's a really good perspective. Uh, it is true that you do have control. You're in charge of yourself. You're in charge of your body, and you
Yeah,
can make changes just by thinking it and just by willing it. And if you don't
that's right.
want any of the dark side coming for you, put up your protection because it
That's
works.
right.
It
Right.
works 100%.
And choose a better feeling thought, just something to raise your vibration. Just find something to
Yeah,
appreciate and be try to be in that love vibration.
yeah. And
Seems
I'll
so
tell you
simple.
the thing that helps. That's really easy. It's kind of cheating. Is listening to meditation music, especially if it's 432 hertz. And I
Yes.
put a bunch of meditations up on my YouTube channel just for that reason, so that people could
Mm,
chill out for 2 or 3 or 5 minutes during their busy day, and it calms them down, and then they can think clearly.
right.
They're in that protective mode, and it just raises your vibration immensely. So it
Yeah.
only takes a couple of minutes to do. It doesn't
Nice.
take hours. You don't have to go into a deep meditative trance. So I suggest doing
Actually,
that.
7 breaths. So if you take seven long hold and then longer exhale.
Yeah.
And there's something about doing it 7 times. Maybe it's the 17-second thing. I don't know. But there's something about doing it 7 times that really seems to provide a real shift. So even something as simple as the breath, which is there with you all
Yeah.
the time.
There's another one that I learned recently. It's one deep breath in, and then another deep short breath in, and then a sigh. So
Oh, I like that. Ah, sighing.
if you do that three
Right.
times, you're good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
If you're in
lots
a
of ways
stressful
that,
situation and you have to think, use that one.
well, we are so powerful. We're created perfect, we're created whole, and we're created holy. And, I say it lots of times, if we were all to be aware of how powerful we really are, then there would not even be a battle because, we would just, be the love that we are. And so it's extremely important to the powers that be that we keep people dumbed down about how powerful they are. So,
Yeah. Well, it's not working. People are waking up. People are coming
people are
into their
waking up.
own and reclaiming their power back.
Yeah, yeah. So, Margie, I know you've got lots and lots of books and projects, and what's the best way for people to follow your work? I know you've got classes and you've got, oh, okay, there we
Yeah.
go,
There's
unxmedia.com. All right,
Yeah, there's some of
great.
my books. You can go there or to margiek.com. I've got some new ones coming up. I've got one about Thor coming up, and also a fairy book. And so I'm looking for true fairy stories from people. So if anybody has seen real fairies, if they'll contact me, I'd like to include that in my upcoming book. And I've seen them myself. That's why I have an interest in it. And then, of course, I've got classes And you have some classes, and we're adding those onto the Unix Network website shortly, within the next few days, so people can look
Very
there. And we've got 2 more people who are going to be involved in that, so we're going to have a lot more classes in the next few months.
Yay, I'm so excited. Thank you so much, Margie. It's been a fascinating show, and I'm just so thrilled to be here with you on the journey. So thanks again, Margie.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Good to see you.
All right. And we'll be back next week. I'm having James Roguski. He's going to be talking about the PrEP Act and what we can and should be doing to look after our health. So thank you so much. See you next week, everybody.